end the Dionesian cycle. So, there's very little in certain aspects of what Greek mythology and Greek paganism seems to be that I think actually belongs there. I don't believe that at least the myth of Dionysus belongs there. It may, the story belongs because of the things that human beings had done that started that story. And that's the most important reason why you don't destroy any kinds of books. Sources upon sources, right? If we had, for instance, if the Nazis destroy the Talmud somehow, then people that weren't Jews would never get a chance to read the Talmud, which the Jews would have probably found preferable, because if the Jews survived, as long as like one rabbi of bloodline survives, then the Talmud is preserved in secret, just the way they want it to be, right? But that doesn't matter anymore. Look at what I'm doing in real time. That's a fucking nightmare for somebody who has occulted texts. I mean, everybody fucking understands that a lot of fucking Masonic literature wasn't supposed to get out. It got out. And it changed Masonry. You don't get an anti-Mason political party without a grand awareness and resent for Masons, meaning we're not just aware of the Masons. We got a motherfucking problem with them, and we're going to tell you what we know about them, or what we think we know about them. And it has to end because it encourages weak men to never find a way to be who they really are or want to be, but instead to offer themselves up for devourment. This is horrible. And this is what you get out of Jesus worship. I am of such quality that I offer myself up for devourment. As opposed to, I am of such quality, I will slay the devourer. Right? And as long as you have this kind of relationship of fear with what you ontologically have boxed yourself into, where this deity is the whole of the universe, and to defend it as the whole of the universe is a monstrous disassociation from rational people everywhere. You know, you can't be fully, if you're a rational person of any fucking ontological walk, you know, you're gonna at least acknowledge, well, I don't think I believe any of that, but, you know, the trivium process kind of works out. And here, you know, here's where I'm going to debate him, but here's where he's got too many good points, etc., etc. Right? But here, it's just like, this is more like, don't even think about whether these are values to be debated. There is no fucking debate. It goes against your understanding of the words in your trusted translation of the Bible, and then you go off into the tirade that everybody goes off into, right? You know, it's ad nauseum, you know? And it is the absence that is effectively killing us in the psyche, right? It's these absences of things is what's breaking us down into postmodernism, where we have freed ourselves from the shackles of the past to party in the wasteland of the future, because we came to resent the things that we were shackled from, because we didn't know how to separate them from the problems in the human condition. And we also blew up our imagination of the extent of damage we were capable of doing outside of unto ourselves. And all of this brought on a Dionesian guilt complex. You partied so hard, you ruined the fucking realm. Now you're paying your penance. 2020 was this for the entire boomer Generation X collective sin. And the retributive payoff, or pay, what, the retribution from the millennial and the Z generation. And the Z generation also has got quite a beef with the millennials, which is how the Z generation is coming around to, how the millennials, no. Everybody's learning some shit from some shit. Everybody's learning something. We're in good shape, is my point. Hello, people. Because, you see, there's a false argument on both sides. And which is why, like, I, sitting as the judge, right, you know, I'm making rulings and judgments and determinations on a daily basis to maintain integrity, psychic integrity, of y'all don't know shit, bring me some fucking reality, some verifiable reality. Until then, I'm just looking at your awful argument and why that makes me think you're wrong. Or why this person's making a great argument and why I think they're right. And then I am also compounding this with my personal agenda, which is anarcho-nationalism with voluntarist contributions to the nation. Right? That is all, I don't know. I think all that fucking makes sense. We just all have to agree that we're a nation and that we have a border standard, so that way we don't mix up what is our agreed whatever and what isn't, as we get to know each other better, because we're still strangers in the particular. We kind of understand each other in the aggregate, but we also don't understand each other in the aggregate. Half the time, we're registering collective body language. You know? The left is mesmerized by the exoticness of everybody else's culture, because of the anti-culture that was robbed of us. Europeans are not having that problem anymore, right? If a European is a postmodern fucking atheistic, that's their fucking choice, because they don't have to just say, well, I'm not a Christian, so I'm this. They now have their fucking ancestors, which is proving to be 20 times more appealing than putting your fucking wife in a turban. Because at least Western civilization wasn't down with that. Unless, of course, you're the king of fucking England and nobody wants to admit that the king is the fucking problem and that they need a new fucking bloodline on the throne. And they wouldn't know how to fucking pick a bloodline. And the bloodline is not really the issue, per se. And they don't know who they are anyway. This is all an identity crisis. America is holding its own integrity because our wild psychosis of Aquarian minds, because we don't have our homelands and our home heretical or inherited lineage stuff. You know, this is why I had Thomas Sheridan on the channel. Go watch my interview with Thomas Sheridan, please. Please. It's fucking dynamite. That we were forced to be like, well, yeah, man, let's smash the Jews in with the South Americans, in with the Norse, in with the Christians, and and everybody's in with everybody, and that's Catholicism. The second you take religion and you know, that certainly doesn't have a better word for itself than Christ consciousness, and then you just fucking appropriate all the other fucking religions around you and turn everybody into just slight lessers of a truer understanding of the one true God. That's Catholicism. Welcome to fucking, you know, what my life was until about I was 12 years old, and I made a ontological shift to being a Pentecostal because I was still working my way out of the entire fucking trap. And understanding that if you do enough fucking study, you can find that you don't have to give their systems a benefit of the doubt, and stop fucking convoluting the evils that maybe even the whole of them agree upon, you know, and be like, well, it's just still not about the people. I may find one or two fucking guys. You know, I was just talking to a guy in a comment section on a YouTube thread who was half Jewish and whatever, and I said, like, okay, do you follow the Talmud? Have you read the Talmud? And it's, you know, it's just like, and he goes like, I follow the path I am meant to be on. It's like, aight, right? You know, and he definitely meant that in the context of he gets it, right? Which makes sense, because that's why he was there watching that video with me and in that comment section with me without being a troll, right? You know, it wasn't like I wasn't responding to anything trollish. He was bringing that up because he probably wanted to understand, what do I think about somebody of mixed so-called Jewish whatever, right? Because also part of my thing is that, like, well, do you know your Jewish heritage in full? Do you understand what it is to be a Jew because of the manner in which it went from being purely a race to also having a conversionary, one that becomes an inherited conversionary versus one that becomes like, you know, like, oh, you could be Jewish, you know, it's okay, you know, the rest of your family don't have to be a thing in the way we do it, right? And, you know, the Talmud is kind of showing you exactly why there's a bazillion sects. And I, you know, like, they need to bring the whole world into their fucking Talmud and explain themselves and apologize for those who have acted in the inhumanity of the propositions. For those of you that have gone to abandon that? How do we create a safe space for Jews that want to do that? Because look at the Ayatollah. They'll just put an Ayatollah level character on you. And when they do that, the only answer is to find yourself. And then, once you found yourself and mastered yourself, because you have to master it after you find it. You don't just find a bicycle and you never ridden a bicycle before and you're the master of it, right? You just found yourself. Now study it for a while. And then you unlock the Ra Hor Kahut and be the hero that your forefathers were hoping for. Because it's got to be my forefathers, because my father isn't looking for it. He hasn't given a shit since I've turned my shit around. I mean, he gives a shit in general, but he doesn't give a shit about the change. He gives a shit about me. Don't get me wrong. But honestly, I've come to the conclusion that I think that I was just raised by a father with Asperger's autism, which is why he's the insufferable asshole that he is ever since he became an adult. And it's not just my experience; it's a lot of people's experience that was thrown under the rug, because everybody was fucking blind to this as normal. And I was getting the brunt force of being abused for being a feral nature. And they don't tell you that there's, that the truth is that mankind isn't one size fits all. It's the problem with communism, and it's the problem with corporate permittance of fascism, where the company can impose a rule on you as a person, right? And the reason why I turned away is because I could have been working all winter. I could have, if I shaved. But the fact that they were just like, nope, you got to get this thing that suction faces, that's the safety stand. I'm just like, oh, okay. So I never want to work in jobs that require me to wear a full face mask because I want to be a bearded person. Because they don't have to do that with a fucking suction machine. I can just they could make a fucking full head cowl. So all you need is a full head cowl, which is gonna be more functional than a suction cup. And by the way, even if that was to work, my skin does not really work with a dry razor or with a wet razor, like with a straight, like a Gillette or whatever. My hair is kind of funny like that on my face. I just kind of go tight with an electric. That's really all I can fucking do. It's just like, I have a very, very odd reaction to shaving cream. Not that I have a reaction like I'm allergic to shaving cream, but it's like, it seems to make it less effective. If you could fucking believe that. Absolutely less effective. But, so my point is, is that there's a certain level at 45, even though I don't got all my shit together, where I still want to fucking have control over a few fucking aesthetic fucking things that to me are complete absurdities. Like a tie being necessary business attire. Shaving your face because we want to design a minimalist breathing apparatus. That's all that is. It's just like we want to put the bare minimum amount of materials and the most hassle of function into this mask. It's like, no, thank you. Mastering Asperger's is Mensa. Let's see. Hey. Alright. Sub and like the video, you guys. How's it going, Howard? Yep. Brandon, Jesus loves you. Unsolicited love is abuse. Jesus has no business loving me. None whatsoever. You are worshiping a god of slaughter, and that is your destiny, to be slaughtered. Your Judas goat will lead you. You will know no fucking difference. You may have a great fucking life, but you contribute to the ruin of ignorance and bigotry all around you. Yeah. All right. Good. I think I've said everything I need to say. Thanks for oh wait, hold on. Oh, Adam's here. I didn't even see you. They want to change the land of the free and the home of the brave to the land of the safe and home of the coward. Yeah. Well, they already went through making us cowards, but you see, that's just a smaller aspect for some people as a control script. There's also the radicalization process. People have been people have allowed themselves to get swept away into sadism, and this is why you are seeing the abusive nature of things when it comes to Charlie Kirk, Nicole Good, Irina, or whatever her name was, the Ukrainian girl, right? And people don't see another way, right? What kind of fucking social atmosphere fucking nonsense was in the primary zeitgeist in the imperial era just before the ignition of World War I? Right? What was making things as such where an insurgent gets away with a successful, practically, like one could have easily swept that under the table if they wanted to and said it was a lone fucking wolf. Right? Who the fuck knows anything? What was the inner desire to do so in the first place in the public zeitgeist? What were the real particular dialogues between nations? We never fucking talk about that. Why do we never talk about the real context between nations. We talk about it in a general sense of, oh, these three fucking nephews were fucking fighting. And it was all sorts of petty. Okay, that's fine. And it was all a conspiracy between them. Well, what was their conspiracy? It was serving an agenda. They weren't just gonna slaughter y'all for shits and giggles, not while they were fucking crushing it. These guys were, if they hadn't decided to go to war with each other, each one of them were respectively very, I guess you would say people would call them progressive, right? But they allowed this whole anti-bourgeois rhetoric to come in and establish communism, exploiting those that the empire hadn't had a chance to educate yet, or to at least educate to be part of a more successful model. And even though that was not part of Karl Marx's fucking rebukes of the bourgeoisie, he never said it, oh, and see how they deny you fucking education. No, they just complain that there isn't enough education, even though there was none before, but it is all their fault that there isn't more than there is now. Even though if it weren't for them, there would be none at all. Which, of course, is all of this is insulting and undermining the emperors, right? The kings, right? It's criticizing their sovereign economic policy and its social impact. Yeah. All right, I'm going to get ready for my chiropractor appointment. I'll catch you guys later.